The sound of her baby's hungry cries echoed through the small apartment as Melissa stared at her phone screen, tears blurring her vision. $3. That's all that remained in her account after paying rent. $3 wouldn't buy enough formula to last the night, let alone the week until her next paycheck. In desperation, she sent a message to a community help number she'd found online, never expecting that the person who would answer her plea would change her life forever. If you've ever felt like you were at the end of your rope, with nowhere left to turn, this story will remind you that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in humanity. Melissa Jenkins had always been a fighter. Growing up in a small town outside of Pittsburgh, she'd worked hard for everything she had. The daughter of a factory worker and a waitress, she was the first in her family to attend college, working 2 jobs to put herself through nursing school. Her future had seemed bright and full of promise. Then came the accident. A rainy night, a truck driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel, and suddenly Melissa's carefully constructed life shattered like the windshield of her compact car. The physical injuries healed over time, but the medical bills piled up, and her inability to work during her recovery meant she lost her apartment and had to move into a cheaper place in a rougher part of town. Still, Melissa persevered. She found a new job at a local clinic, making less than she had before but grateful for the income. She was slowly rebuilding her life when she discovered she was pregnant. The relationship with her boyfriend, Jake, had been relatively new, and when she told him about the baby, he panicked and disappeared, blocking her number and social media accounts. "I can do this," Melissa told herself, rubbing her growing belly. "We'll be okay, little one." And for a while, they were. Melissa worked until she was 8 months pregnant, saving every penny she could. When her daughter Emma was born, tiny, perfect, with a dusting of dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold all the wisdom in the world, Melissa fell in love instantly. The first few weeks were a blur of exhaustion and joy, feeding schedules and diaper changes, but Melissa managed. Then the clinic where she worked announced budget cuts. As one of the newest employees, Melissa was among the first to be let go. Her savings dwindled rapidly as she searched for new employment while caring for a newborn. She applied for assistance programs, but the bureaucratic wheels turned slowly, and Emma's needs couldn't wait. That rainy Tuesday night in November marked the lowest point. Emma was 6 weeks old and screaming with hunger. The formula can was nearly empty, and Melissa's bank account showed a balance of $3.17. She'd already pawned her laptop and the gold necklace her grandmother had given her for graduation. There was nothing left to sell. With shaking hands, she typed a message to a community support number she'd found on a flyer at the food bank. "I'm sorry to bother you. I have a 6-week-old baby and only $3 left. We're out of formula. Is there any way you can help? I can pay it back when I get a job." She hit send, then put the phone down, not expecting much. These services were overwhelmed, especially around the holidays. She picked up Emma, rocking her gently, whispering soothing words that did little to calm either of them. When her phone pinged 5 minutes later, Melissa lunged for it. "What kind of formula does your baby need? And what's your address? I can have some delivered to you tonight." The response was simple, direct, and felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Melissa quickly typed back the information, adding profuse thanks. She didn't ask who was helping her. At that moment, she didn't care. All that mattered was that Emma would have food. An hour later, there was a knock at her door. Expecting a delivery person, Melissa was shocked to find a tall man in a simple black coat standing there, holding several bags. "Ms. Jenkins? I'm Daniel Reeves. I got your message about the formula." Melissa stood frozen, Emma fussing in her arms. Everyone knew who Daniel Reeves was, the tech billionaire whose company had revolutionized renewable energy storage. His face occasionally appeared on business magazines and news programs. What was he doing at her door? You're Daniel Reeves?" But I texted the community support line. He smiled slightly. I fund that program. Sometimes I answer the messages myself. May I come in? These bags are getting heavy. Still stunned, Melissa stepped aside. Her tiny apartment, with its second-hand furniture and water stains on the ceiling, seemed even shabbier with a billionaire standing in it. But Daniel Reeves didn't seem to notice as he set the bags on her small kitchen counter. I wasn't sure exactly what you needed, so I got several types of formula, some diapers, wipes, and a few other baby essentials. He glanced at Emma. She's beautiful. How old did you say she was? 6 weeks, Melissa answered automatically, still trying to process what was happening. I don't know how to thank you. I can pay you back, but it might take some time. Daniel waved his hand dismissively. That's not necessary. I'm happy to help. He paused, seeming to consider something. If you don't mind me asking, what's your situation? You mentioned needing a job? Perhaps it was the genuine concern in his voice, or maybe it was the emotional release of knowing Emma would be fed tonight, but Melissa found herself telling this stranger her whole story, the accident, the medical bills, Jake's abandonment, losing her job. Through it all, Daniel listened attentively, occasionally asking questions but never interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. You're a nurse, correct? With experience in a clinical setting? Melissa nodded, bouncing Emma gently as her cries had subsided to soft coos. My company is opening a new wellness center for our employees next month. We're still staffing it. Would you be interested in interviewing for a position? The pay is competitive, and we have on-site childcare. Melissa stared at him, certain she had misheard. You want me to work for your company? But you don't know anything about my qualifications. I know you're resilient, resourceful, and responsible. You've faced significant challenges and kept going. Those are qualities I value in employees. As for your technical skills, that's what interviews are for. He pulled out his phone. If you're interested, I can have HR contact you tomorrow to set something up. Tears welled in Melissa's eyes. Yes, I'm interested. Thank you. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Just take care of yourself and your daughter tonight. Get some rest. He moved toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Melissa? Everyone needs help sometimes. There's no shame in asking for it. After he left, Melissa sat on her worn couch, feeding Emma with the new formula, wondering if she had imagined the whole encounter. But the bags of supplies on her counter and the text message with interview details that arrived minutes later confirmed it had been real. The interview the next day went well. The wellness center director was impressed with Melissa's experience and compassionate approach to patient care. They offered her the position on the spot, a salary that was nearly twice what she'd made at the clinic, with benefits that included health insurance, childcare assistance, and even a housing stipend. 2 weeks later, Melissa and Emma moved into a safe, clean apartment closer to her new job. The on-site childcare center meant she could visit Emma during her lunch breaks, and the regular hours allowed her to establish a routine that worked for both of them. Months passed, and Melissa thrived in her new role. She made friends among her colleagues and even started a support group for single parents at the company. Emma grew into a happy, healthy baby, her smile lighting up Melissa's world every day. Daniel Reeves occasionally stopped by the wellness center, always making time to say hello to Melissa and see how she and Emma were doing. He never mentioned that night or the text message that had brought them together, treating her with the same respect he showed all his employees. On Emma's first birthday, a package arrived at Melissa's apartment. Inside was a beautiful wooden rocking chair and a note, for the nights when she can't sleep. You're doing an amazing job. Dar. That evening, as Melissa rocked Emma to sleep in their new chair, she reflected on how much had changed in a year. From the brink of desperation to stability and even happiness, all because she had found the courage to ask for help, and someone had taken the time to truly listen. 3 years later, Melissa had been promoted to head nurse at the wellness center. Emma was a vibrant, curious preschooler who loved books and building blocks. Melissa had started taking night classes to earn her nurse practitioner license, with tuition assistance from the company's education program. One day, Daniel stopped by her office. "I have a proposition for you," he said. "We're expanding our community outreach programs, creating mobile health clinics for underserved neighborhoods. I'd like you to help develop and eventually run the program." Melissa was stunned. "Me? But surely there are more qualified people." "No one more qualified than someone who understands firsthand what it means to need help and not know where to turn," Daniel interrupted gently. "Your experience, both personal and professional, makes you uniquely suited for this role." Melissa thought about it for only a moment before nodding. "I'd be honored." The mobile health clinic program launched 6 months later, bringing medical care, health education, and resources to communities throughout the city. Melissa worked tirelessly, drawing on her own experiences to ensure the program addressed not just physical health but the social and economic factors that affected it. On the day the first mobile clinic, named Emma's Hope, began operations, Daniel stood beside Melissa at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. "You know," he said quietly, "that night when you texted about formula, I almost didn't respond personally. I almost forwarded it to one of our volunteers." "What made you decide to answer yourself?" Melissa asked. Daniel was silent for a moment. "Something in your message reminded me of my mother. She raised me alone after my father left. There were nights when she went hungry so I could eat. No one should have to make those choices." Melissa nodded, understanding now why he had shown up at her door that night. "Thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you for everything else." "No," Daniel said, watching as a young mother with a baby entered the mobile clinic, "thank you for showing me that sometimes the best investment isn't in technology or business, but in people." 5 years after that desperate text message, Melissa stood on a stage at a national healthcare conference, accepting an award for the mobile health clinic program, which had expanded to 3 states and served thousands of families. Emma, now 6 and dressed in her favorite purple dress, sat in the front row between Daniel and his wife, clapping wildly for her mother. "This program began with a simple belief," Melissa said into the microphone, "that everyone deserves access to care, and no one should have to choose between feeding their child and paying their rent." It also began with a text message sent in desperation and answered with kindness. She looked directly at Daniel. "We often talk about grand gestures changing lives, but sometimes it's the small acts of humanity, taking the time to listen, to show up, to see someone's potential when they can't see it themselves, that truly transform the world." As applause filled the room, Melissa reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a young woman with only $3 to her name to the director of a groundbreaking healthcare initiative, her path had been neither straight nor easy. But that night, when she'd reached out with her last shred of hope, she'd connected with someone who saw her not as a charity case but as a human being with value and potential. The real miracle wasn't that a billionaire had answered her text, it was that 2 people from vastly different worlds had recognized their shared humanity and built something meaningful from that connection. Later that evening, as Melissa tucked Emma into bed, her daughter asked, "Mom, are you and Mr. Daniel friends?" Melissa smiled, thinking about how to explain their unique relationship. "Yes, we're friends. But we're also something else. Sometimes people come into our lives exactly when we need them, and they help us become who we're meant to be. Mr. Daniel did that for me, and now I try to do that for others." Emma considered this, her small face serious. "Like paying it forward?" "Exactly like that," Melissa said, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day." As she closed Emma's door, Melissa's phone pinged with a text message. It was from Daniel. "Congratulations again on the award. Your speech was perfect. Remember when you promised to pay me back for that formula? Consider your debt more than repaid. You've changed more lives than you know, including mine. Melissa smiled as she typed her reply, "Thank you for answering a desperate text from a stranger. Some debts can never be repaid, they can only be passed forward." And that's exactly what she intended to do, one life at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to unexpected light, and that kindness, whether given or received, has the power to transform lives. Share this video with someone who might need a reminder that they're not alone, and that help can come from the most surprising places.